It is April 11th in Butte, Montana. I think I've got my phone set up to where I can actually record these things again, so I'm going to give it a shot. I think it was Emily Dickinson or one of that crowd that said that autumn is a second spring where every leaf is a flower, which is a beautiful sentiment, but here in Butte, Montana, the rules are a little different. Here in April, we get a second autumn. The fall colors are back in full swing again. Really need to get some pictures of the swamp because it's beautiful down right there right now. It's definitely picturesque autumn. But yeah, we've got the crunchy leaves that have been frozen under the ice since last fall. We've got the oranges in the trees and the reds in the willows. And it's just a lovely time to be from Butte, Montana. Okay, so I'm weighing into this discussion a little late, I realize, but I suppose I need to put my 2 cents in. There's probably people who are curious about my opinion here. So there's this phenomenon of school shootings, which is the latest worst thing ever, and I don't want to sound disparaging. It is a terrible thing. There's also been a rash of suicides among teens and young people, children even. Children as young as like 9 years old and committing suicide. It's been making front page news. So who do I think of that? Well, everybody seems to be weighing in despite the fact that doesn't even really seem to mean anything. Like, what do you think of that? Well, I'm opposed to it. See you next time, folks. No, this deserves a legitimate answer as to what's causing it, what do we do about it, and where have we failed? Again, I don't want it to be dismissive because there are real tragedies in our world. But I would like to point out that there always have been real tragedies in our world and that there always will be. It's the nature of our world. Now, does that mean that we can just sit back and say, doesn't matter, people always die? Take the Joker's point of view. You know, 5,000 people die of starvation in Ethiopia. Nobody bats an eye, but I kill one school bus and everybody goes nuts. No, that's not my philosophy. My philosophy is that the kids on the school bus matter, but so do the Ethiopians. That we're all in this together. What I say is the correct way of looking at this is there's a dichotomy here. There are two things that we need to be looking at. One is the tragedy of the world, of this present darkness, of the vale of tears. These are words that the poets use to describe our mortal condition. And we need to be aware that the world is terrible and that it is our job to do something about it, to make the world better and to fix things. At the same time, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that is what's been going on, and that's what our forebears have done. Anyone that thinks this time is awful is no sort of a historian or statistician. Violence has been steadily decreasing for a long, long time now. And of course, a whole bunch of people perk up and say, well, what do you mean decreasing? Well, I don't care. However you're measuring violence, it's going down. Fewer people are dying violently, fewer people are being assaulted worldwide. And unless you really cherry pick it, just about any random place you pick, violence is going down. You're much less likely to get mugged than you were a couple decades ago. You're much less likely to get murdered than you were a few decades ago. You're less likely to die in vehicular accidents for a host of reasons. Police have more tools at their disposal, as do the FBI and CIA. Of course, so do the bad guys. But the cops, hopefully, in your town are a little bit more organized than the bad guys. I know here they certainly are. We got some pretty stupid bad guys in Butte. But yeah, the world is becoming more and more cohesive and more peaceful. It is not cohesive and it is not peaceful and it's never going to be, but it is more so than it has been at any period in history up till now. So the rash of school shootings. I could say the same thing too about, I'm doing this without any notes, so this is kind of rambly as always, but there was that guy that murdered the entire concert. He started sniping at a concert, and then by the time the cops busted into his hotel room. He had already killed himself. That was a horrible tragedy, and it made headlines, and it made us wonder, well, what do we need to do to change this? And they called for all kinds of gun control regulations and things. Gun control regulations are not what's going to fix that, okay? I don't feel like going over this old argument. I'm just going to say, do your research. Increasing the gun laws in America, making gun laws stricter, has never led to less violence. Show me where it has. Burden of proof is on you. You want to impose a solution that's going to cause legislation and you spend tax dollars and do all this stuff. You show me what is the city where they tried that and it worked, because I found it to be the opposite everywhere I've looked. And maybe I'm wrong. Educate me if I am, and I'll change my tack. I'm not married to my ideas. I'm married to the idea of trying to find the truth. So yeah, if I'm wrong, and there has been a place where stricter gun laws have made it safer, let me know, because I'm not aware of that. Okay, so I don't think the answer is changing the gun laws. I also don't think the answer is hiring armed guards, because armed guards can't stop a surprise attack, okay? They can only be in one or at best a few locations in a school. By the time they are alerted to the fact that people are being murdered, okay? That's not the solution. We certainly don't want to arm the teachers. The teachers don't even want to be armed. I feel like the teachers should be allowed to have training that would help mitigate these things, even up to and including being armed and taking the necessary courses, if that's what they want to do. But if you make it mandatory, you're in for a horrible bloodbath. My answer as to what we should be doing is more or less what we have been doing. Working hard to decrease violence by increasing understanding, by spreading love, by being more educated in general, by having science and psychology and technology more prevalent throughout all strata of society. These things have historically mitigated violence and terror and awful things, and I think they will continue to do so. So the question people are asking is, what's the magic bullet that's going to destroy all violence forever? That's going to make it so that no child in a school ever gets killed again? I'm sorry. I am truly sorry to inform you that that is utter nonsense. That world cannot exist. This world is made of blood and piss and shit, and I wish I could tell you otherwise. But it is. This world is awful. It will always be awful. There's only one way to destroy all the bad people, and that's to destroy all the people. There's only one way to take the freedom away from the villains, and that's to take the freedom away from the heroes. Okay? This world is bad, but it has good in it, and it is getting better all the time. We cannot afford to do nothing. We must look at these recent tragedies as we have looked at all tragedies, and we must look at ways to do it better. We must every day go to bed better people than we woke up, for the sake of everyone. But this is not accomplished by sweeping reform. It's not accomplished by knee-jerk reaction. It doesn't come about through hasty legislation. The only things that change society are things that are societal change. We have to get better by teaching our children to be better than we are. And that's something that happens every day. It's a long, hard job. We're doing a good job of it, and we need to continue doing that. As to where we failed, infant mortality is on the decline. War is still a huge problem, but it's on the decline. Sickness, we're tackling sicknesses one after another. Technological problems, architectural problems, supply chain problems, agricultural problems. We're ticking them off one after the other. Problem solved after problem solved. That's what it is to live in a post-industrial technological society. I am proud to do it. And if you say that we have failed because one or two loose cannons have managed to do quite a bit of damage, then we failed long ago. We failed because we allowed John Wayne Gacy to live in this world. Or Albert Finch, or Adolf Hitler, or Mao, or Pol Pot. Just because there's evil in this world doesn't mean that good doesn't exist. The question isn't how do we eradicate evil. It is how do we mitigate evil. And we do that the way we have been doing it. Through love, understanding, science, and ironically enough, freedom. I love you all. Keep learning.